Good evening, everybody. I believe we are now live. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Contrarian Daily. Now, you will notice again, similar to last night, I am running solo. Not I am running solo. We are running solo here at the Contrarian Daily. Jake has a few other things to get on with tonight, and for me, it's been a huge day in the business. Extremely busy, so I've only just been able to put together the episode and go live with it right now. So I think being late, a little bit later, if you're here, it'll be fantastic to hear from you. But again, I do realize it is quite late, almost 10 p.m. here in Queensland, and I'm sure almost 11 p.m. for Sydney. So for those of you who are watching later on at a future date, hello to you. So tonight, what I'm going to be talking about is the events in the Ukraine. And also a little bit more from the State of the Union that Jake was covering last night as well, and put it in context of the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum. Now, just be advised, I might even use the N-word during this episode for those who are a little bit squeamish, but I don't mean the N-word that got Joe Rogan in trouble with Spotify from the radical left. I mean the N-word that has been thrown at right-leaning and even moderate individuals and people, especially during the Trump presidency. I mean the word that starts with N and rhymes with artsy. Okay, so look, I probably won't say it to be honest, but we will be discussing a little bit about this throughout this episode as well. So first and foremost, what I just want to cover is what do they want with the Great Reset? So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Great Reset is an agenda that's been set by the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. You can go check it out. Go check out all their resources on the World Economic website, World Economic Forum website, and also the books, The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab. I talk about it almost every episode because it's incredible. It lays out the whole plan in great detail. So essentially what they want with, they want a lot of things, but the key points that they want with the Great Reset is a world government that's in control, but also total control. They want a social credit system, which they'll likely bring in through what's called the ESG score. They also want digital currencies, which is already being floated and tested, I believe, in several places, which is the Reserve Bank digital currency or the central bank digital currency. And they also want us, the general population, to own nothing, yet apparently be happy. Now, in order for them to reach their objectives, what they need a number of things to happen. But again, just some key points that they need a lack of faith in current governments and systems, right? So that they can come in with their new solution of a world government and save us all. Hooray for them. They're our heroes, clearly. Now, they also will need to have an acceptance of a checkpoint style life. Now, that's what we've been seeing over the last, 12 to 18 months, even 2 years, I guess, with this whole, COVID situation where we have, we've had lockdowns, we've had, mask mandates, we've also had vax mandates and restrictions of movement and travel, unless you produce papers and show proof of, taking certain medical procedures, as they say. So they need that acceptance of that sort of lifestyle, and even people like, in shops, literally people who are sitting behind the counters of shops having to ask and be shown proof of certain procedures, which is just crazy. So they need that acceptance. They also need the vilification of the rich, wealthy people. Now, when I mean rich, the rich that they're talking about are people who are probably millionaires, multimillionaires, decamillionaires, and probably even in the hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not talking of or about themselves, the elites and the uber rich, the billionaires, the multi-billionaires, and the trillionaires that I'm sure will be emerging soon. They mean the vilification of what most people think of as rich. The property investors, the business owners, the what else? The stock share trade investors, all those different bits and pieces. So they need the masses to vilify and not like those people who own property and investment property. They also need, now in order to get a situation where we don't own anything, they also need high levels of debts, right? Now, especially in the USA, particularly student debts, because what they're floating the ideas of is debt relief in terms of debt forgiveness. Sorry, my apologies. Basically forgiving people's debt, especially if you've got student debt and everything like that. But in exchange for that, you just won't own anything, and you can't own anything. And I think the talk right now is for a period of time, but I believe it's going to be forever. So they need, in order for them to have, for the population to accept not owning things, they need the people who own things to be vilified. They need high levels of debt for people that can be forgiven in exchange for no ownership. They also need to probably impose exorbitant taxes or, I guess, situations and other measures to make owning investment property or investments in general too expensive or too difficult. They also need a good alternative for people to like a good out. So if you do own property, they're not going to just come in and take it. They're going to buy it from you, or they're going to do whatever they can. And in fact, they already are buying it from people. Let me just actually pull up this article here that I've got. Now, what they're going to do is, if I just bring this in, there we go. And again, being a solo, I'm running the tech by myself, so hopefully I can get it all going quite all right. But basically what's happening right now and has been happening is companies like BlackRock, which is a large investment firm. If you're not familiar with them, go get familiar with them. They've been buying up a lot of residential property in the USA. And according to this tweet here, they've been buying it up for, 50% or up to 50%, I should say, above asking price. Now, that headline is probably a little bit, they're taking a bit of liberty there, I think. Like it's probably happened or happened in this article that they're relating it to, but it's one example that probably isn't the norm. So this is confirmed in the Wall Street Journal. So I just want to make sure I show receipts as much as possible. So Wall Street Journal, if you sell a house these days, the buyer might be a pension fund. Excuse me. And if we go down here, no, I don't want to subscribe or sign in. Okay, it's behind the paywall. Fantastic. Essentially, what this article went on to say is that this is a subdivision, an entire subdivision in Houston, basically that was bought above market value. And what is happening, what is not disputed that is happening, is investment firms, pension funds, and the like are coming in and buying up a whole ton of property from average everyday people. So what they basically need in order for us to not own anything and be happy with that, there's a lot of other things too, but the key things is a vilification of anyone who owns things, and particularly investors and the rich and wealthy. They need high levels of debt for the average person that they can then forgive in order to exchange that for ownership. They need to probably implement measures that make owning property and investments and things like that very difficult, and they need to have a good alternative and a good out. So what I've just tried to lay out there is the key goals or some of the key goals of the Great Reset, and then some of the key, I guess, situations or developments that need to happen in order for that to make the goals achievable. So with this current situation in terms of Russia and the Ukraine, and even the State of the Union and even the pandemic, how does this help their progress? So the first point, they need to have a lack of faith in government and current systems from the population and from the people in order for them to bring in and introduce a global government. So things like government mismanagement of situations and events. Now, obviously, we've seen tons of this over the last couple of years, but in relation to the Russia-Ukraine situation, there's been growing calls for escalation into war. So I'll show you an article and some extra details about a supposed reporter basically trying to get Boris Johnson to implement a no-fly zone over the Ukraine by NATO. So they need that, because when there's growing calls for war in the mainstream media, what's going to happen there is if we do go to war, that's going to disgust and, I guess, put off the anti-war people. But then if they don't go to war, it's going to put off and disgust those who are pro-war. So what they're doing and have been doing, I guess, quite effectively, in my opinion anyway, is sowing discord and distrust in the governments and the current systems. Now, and I believe it's with good faith and with good reason that there's little trust, and that's something in the system. I think the system needs heavy work and probably even a complete redesign and rebuild, but not in the way that they're thinking. But let me go and show you this article here. So I'll just bring up this. You've probably seen the video clip of this particular lady here who was, I guess, beseeching Boris Johnson to reject, to basically have a NATO no-fly zone over the Ukraine, and that would effectively really escalate the situation with Russia. So She was, and you've probably seen the clip. If you haven't seen the clip, just go to YouTube and search for anything in that headline there, and you'll see the clip. She gets quite emotional. She's, crying and that sort of stuff at times, and everything like that. What I want you guys to pay attention to, though, they're saying in here that she's a journalist, right? Boris Johnson rejects emotional plea from a Ukrainian journalist for NATO no-fly zone. Now, pay attention to this name, Daria Kelenyuk. I hope I'm saying that right, Daria. No matter how I might disagree with you for things. This is the clip here. I'm not going to play it here, but you can go have a look at it in your own time. Now, you can probably see on this other tab here, this same lady. Now, have a look at that face, right, and recognize this lady here, Daria Kelenyuk. She is not a journalist. She is, look at this, World Economic Forum up here. She is a co-founder and executive director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center in the Ukraine. And obviously she's part of this World Economic Forum in some way, shape, or form, because she's on the website here. So well, first and foremost, why is she here pushing or trying to impose or get Boris Johnson to impose a no-fly zone over the Ukraine? Why is she also framed as a journalist? And then why is she also part of this World Economic Forum here in this one thing? So look, if you actually look a little bit below the surface across the key players across multiple industries and multiple areas, you'll see that they are connected to the World Economic Forum. Like, for example, Jacinda Ardern I think she was on the Young Leaders group, whatever it is. Justin Trudeau, obviously, we've seen that clip with Angela Merkel. Even Putin has been listed as part of the World Economic Forum at some stage, which I believe they've taken his page or profile off. So if you look below the surface, as we're just looking at this article here, and this thing here, if you just scratch below the surface a little bit, you'll see that these guys are so connected, and you'll start to see how these are all forming together. Now, the other thing that they need to have in terms of destroying our trust and faith in the current systems is a lot of hypocrisy. So the N word I was talking about earlier in the episode here, or teeing up in the intro for this, is the N that rhymes with artsy. It starts with N, it rhymes with artsy. Now, we know that word's been pushed on anyone who's got any sort of what I would consider rational or sane way of thinking. You're claimed to be one of the N words, misogynist, and a whole bunch of other things. If you dare to speak out against the radical left. We also have a situation where Facebook would ban these groups, right, and praise and support these groups because it's hate speech. Take a look at this, guys. I'm going to bring up this other. I have to stop sharing my screen here. I have to bring up another image. Let me just share this for you. Now, have a look at this. Get a load of this as it comes up. There we go. Okay. Now, this is from The Intercept, right? So this is a screenshot I took a little bit earlier on today. And look, Facebook allows praise of the neo N-word Ukrainian battalion if it fights a Russian invasion. So the reversal raises questions about Facebook's blacklist-based content moderation, which critics say lacks nuance and context. And then the text itself says, Facebook will temporarily allow its billions of users to praise the Azov battalion. Now, the Azov battalion is an openly, I'm going to say it, Nazi military unit, and it's a part of the military. I think it's the Ukrainian reserves, I believe it is, but it is openly neo-Nazi, right? They're the ones where they actually have swastikas and things like that. So Facebook is allowing praise of a literal neo-Nazi military group, right? But after the last few years, or over the last few years in particular, you kind of, they've been throwing this word around all over the place to anyone who has any sort of anti-radical left sentiment. And they also claim it's all hate speech and all that other stuff. We've all been taken off and censored off mainstream media at some stage for this as well, which is just completely ridiculous. Now, the next exhibit, right, I'll show, probably, what are we up to? Exhibit C? ABC? Yep. Exhibit C is, and again, what I'm talking about here is the sowing of the seeds of distrust and lack of faith in the current government and systems. Now, This next one here is from the State of the Union that Biden just put across, which was, I'll get a clip from the Dave Rubin show, which I love the Dave Rubin show. If you haven't gone, make sure you go across and watch that because it is absolutely amazing. Now, I'll take the earphones out for this so you guys can hear it as well. Essentially, while Trump was president, and especially during the Black Lives Matter protests, all we heard from the Democrats, or the radical left in particular, but also that is unfortunately now the Democrats for the most part, was defund the police, right? And a bunch of prominent politicians over there, including the current vice president, including, I think, Governor Whitmer from Michigan, and a whole bunch of others, were all calling for defunding of the police because who was in power right then? It was Donald Trump, aka Orange Man. And as we all know, Orange Man bad, according to the radical left. So let me just get this this video clip up for you guys, and let's have a watch of what Biden was saying during the State of the Union. Where is it? Here it is here. And I'm going to take my earphones out. I'm going to unplug these so you guys can hear the audio as well. And let's get to this section here.
But Biden did call to fund the police. Let's take a look.
The answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them.
And look at them applaud. Wow. Yay.
Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe.
Wow, that was absolutely mind-boggling. Now, the reason why I've got this clip from the Dave Rubin show queued up here is because they found another clip, which I want to make sure I credit everyone, that I can. The video that they clipped from, I've got the link in the description here somewhere of the original source that he got this next part from. But take a look at this, right? Let me just skip ahead. And let's get this going. Have a look.
We've been talking about defunding the police.
There's some issues that we ask police to do.
Okay, guys, so just quickly, the source is at RNC Research. So if you want to go see the original clip, go see that there. And again, I got this from, as you can see on the screen, the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin, great show. Check this out.
Mental health issues or policing in schools and all the rest, that perhaps we can shuffle some of that money around.
Suck it up. Defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million.
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
Not only do we need to disinvest in police, but we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
So yes, defund your butts. Defund you.
Yes, I support the reallocation of resources from NYPD.
We will be moving funding from the NYPD to youth initiatives and social services.
They are talking about reducing the allocation of resources to that department. And I think every single city in this country ought to be thinking about the same thing.
Yes, I support the
I got really bad.
Oh, gotta love how the ads come up there. Let me just hit the mute thing. I'm glad it's an ad for this, which is absolutely fantastic. Candace Owens, another great person to follow.
Responsible reallocation of resources
And defund the police.
I think you do all those other things, you don't need all the money that's going to the police department. So yeah, I mean, the spirit of it, I do support that.
There's no reason the police budget should just keep growing and growing and growing. They can make sensible cuts.
We propose to redirect over $7 million from the police bureau.
That our city, through our city administrative officer, identified $250 million in cuts.
Rashida Tlaib tweeting, no more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed.
When they're saying defund the police, what are they saying? They're saying we want.
I love it. They've got this guy here too. He's an absolute disgrace of a human being. And obviously he had the sexual assault allegations, which got him out of the office there. But then his handling of the COVID pandemic, and many people's opinions, led to the unnecessary deaths of a lot of old people by putting people who were sick with COVID back into the nursing homes. But again, here he is on this thing too.
On fundamental, basic change when it comes to policing. And they're right.
All right, the full version.
Right. So now, again, that's 2 minutes out of the 7-minute clip. And then look at them literally applauding the opposite message here during the State of the Union with Biden.
Not to defund the police. is to fund the police.
What an absolute joke. Now, let me just pop these back in so we can get the audio back in my ears for you guys. So, look, and these are all elements and aspects that are going to continue to, I guess, erode and destroy our trust and faith in the current government and current systems. And as I was saying beforehand, I believe that's very well placed right now. The current systems have been completely overrun and taken over. As Klaus Schwab was very proud of saying, over 50% of Trudeau's cabinet has been penetrated by the World Economic Forum. Absolutely ridiculous. And then the last thing I'll do with the hypocrisy here is Russia cutting the Russia being banned by Eurovision. Right. So let's have a look at this. I'll show you this one here as well. Let's get this here. Boom. Russia is banned from Eurovision after invasion of Ukraine. Now they've also been banned from a number of other events as well, such as I think it's like Iron Man and a whole bunch of other things there too. But look, they're banning Russia from Eurovision after invading the Ukraine. Yet pretty much every country that's for the Ukraine situation right now, they all send their athletes to Beijing for the Winter Olympics, despite all the atrocities that are going on there. So the hypocrisy is very, very real, and it's very, very damaging and which is what they want. It's damaging for our trust and faith, and that's exactly what they need, because once we've lost all our faith in our current system, they can come in with their global I guess resources and take over. So look, the other thing they need as well is the acceptance of the checkpoint thing. Let me just remove this from the screen, get me back up here as well. So they also need us to accept this whole checkpoint style way of life, which is basically in order to go from point A to point B, you have to pass through a checkpoint and prove that you are, have taken a medical procedure. You got to, abide by these ridiculous mask mandates and stuff, especially now through COVID. Now, even throughout this whole situation with Ukraine and people being displaced, they're still pushing vax status, and they're still also pushing maintaining social distance. I didn't get time to get the article, but there was an article I think put out by the US government which was saying even in the state of a nuclear war or a nuclear bomb being dropped, maintain your 6 feet social distancing. Just Google that, or go to, I shouldn't say Google it, go search that on DuckDuckGo, and you'll find that article there as well. Now, it's just absolutely ridiculous. This is normalizing the whole checkpoint way of life. Now, the last thing that they need here is the vilification of. Sorry, not the last thing. They also need. My apologies. They also need. They want digital currencies to come into play, right? So they want us as a world to have digital currencies, because if we have digital currencies, they can track all of our purchases. But not only that, they can control the purchases too. Now, if you do any research into the again, I always confuse it. It's the central bank digital currencies. You'll see that they're going to be influenced. They can control by being programmable. They can control what you can and can't spend that money on, quote unquote money. So, look, in order for them to bring in a digital currency, they need to have a financial calamity caused by inflation and also by supply shortages as well. So I'm going to read from a Telegram group, which I highly recommend you follow, called the Ice Age Farmer. Right, and so there's plenty of pieces in here too, but let me just get to these ones here. So the EU is the third biggest consumer of corn, right, and it imports a majority, 70%, from Ukraine annually. Honest question: as ports are being closed to Russia, where are they going to get their food this year? Given Brazil's weather struggles and Bayer declaring force majeure in the US, it's just not possible. This isn't just sanctions we are watching. We are watching a mass. He's calling it a self-deletion ritual. He goes, sorry to be blunt, I just don't understand how people don't see this, but I guess they're busy pouring out bottles of vodka, which, again, if you do any searching about the people in the USA pouring out bottles of vodka, you'll see that they're doing that in solidarity or against Russia. But most of the vodka they're pouring out is actually made in the UK, I believe. So absolutely crazy. Now, Maersk, I hope I pronounced that correctly. The biggest shipping company in the world suspends all container shipments to Russia, which is a complete dismantling of the global supply chain. It's even more insane than flattening the curve. It's not just virtue signaling. It's not sanctions. It's not a war between nations. It's a war on all the people of the world. And this I actually believe. I believe, I do believe that Russia invading the Ukraine was not good, and I don't agree with that at all. But I also don't feel any malice towards the Russians in general, I guess. But what it is the it's the elites against the people, and that's literally what it is. And what they do is they try to get us to fight against each other. Now, the other parts here that I want to read out to you. So obviously wheat prices have gone up dramatically. So apparently with the explosion in the pricing of wheat, multiple users reported Merrill Lynch is not allowing them to trade wheat or other commodity ETFs, which is absolutely ridiculous. And this is another separate article or separate topic, but essentially what the Ice Age Farmer is all about is the coming food shortages, because obviously the COVID pandemic narrative is mostly behind us. They're probably going to try to revive it in some way, shape, or form. But the next one's coming is, obviously climate change and things like that. But the other one is food shortages. And so what he's saying here in the UK, there's a government scheme to pay farmers up to 100,000 pounds, to help them retire, and it's open for application in April. So long-awaited details have been published on DEFRA's lump sum exit scheme, part of a drive to encourage older farmers to leave the industry and pass on the land to the newer generation. To be eligible, farmers will need to surrender their BPS entitlements and dispose of almost all of their agricultural land by sale or gift. And again, we know that most people, children of farmers do not want to maintain being farmers. And again, shippers cut off Russia, wheat prices explode. What else have we got down here? By the way, actually, Maersk, that company I just mentioned beforehand that's cut service to Russia, is a WEF partner. What I might actually do, I'll just hold my phone up so hopefully you can see the thing there. WE Forum, and there they are there. They're a partner of the World Economic Forum there as well. So the other thing too, how without Russian gas? Already European Union nations are hearing that they must quickly fail forward into renewables as the gas is shut down from Russia. Right, and then as he says here, as I mentioned in my update earlier, this conflict serves so many aspects of the zero carbon agenda, even as the war machine belches insane pollution. Honestly, guys, like this guy here, the Ice Age Farmer, is a group you must get onto in Telegram. There it is for you guys as well. This is where I get a lot of the information about the food supply situations and what's going to be happening in the future, and actually happening now. So, look, with obviously the food shortages and the supplies we're having here, plus the economic sanctions and booting of Russia from or certain Russian banks from the SWIFT system, that's going to have knock-on effects. It's going to cause our financial system and economic system to have a lot of strain, and if not collapse outright. Once it does collapse, it allows them to come in with the digital currency essentially. And again, the continued money printing from the banks is also not going to help either. Now, this is huge because again, once they have a digital currency in place, they can not only control or track our spending, they can also control our spending as well. So look, guys, this is how I view things. I want to get to a few things before I wrap up this episode. Running my own business, right? I know that designing a strategy and planning a strategy that can help achieve a certain outcome, that actually achieves that outcome and the end result is difficult, and it can get very, very complicated. I'm just talking amongst a small group of people in my team and my clients as well, right? So within our two teams, it can get very, very complicated just to design digital marketing strategies, essentially, right? And we all know that this happens, the complication expands even further. Now, I'm sure every one of you watching as well, whether you're live here with me now tonight or watching in a future date, you guys know that there's been cases in your employment or your own business where planning just doesn't work, and it's very, very difficult to get right. So to me, the idea that everything is being planned out in advance to the minute detail and stuff is just doesn't seem accurate to me, only because I don't see how it could actually work, right? Bree Berry, yes, Ice Age Farmer is indeed great. I love that. I'm assuming he's a guy, but whoever's behind that particular group, love them. So look, what was I saying? I was saying oh, that's right. The idea of planning everything down to the minute detail is ridiculous. It's just not likely. But what I think they're doing, and what I think they do, is they have a set of goals that they've stated that they want to achieve, which I went through earlier in this episode, which is basically they want world government with total control. They want a social credit system likely implemented through the ESG. They want digital currencies, and they also want no ownership for the masses, right? So they're the goals that they want to achieve. And I also think they have a high level plan and strategy, and they've planned out several different approaches they're going to take, right? But what they also do is they play the game as it appears, right? So as things happen and as they develop, for example, whether it's the Ukraine people and population standing up against the Russian invasion for longer than Putin was thinking through, or whether it's the fact that people protested so heavily and so, I guess, in such great numbers across much of the Western world regarding the mandates and the lockdowns and things like that. What I think they do is that they have the high level planned out, and when these things arise, they look at it and go, does this situation help us achieve our end goal, or does it hinder us from achieving our end goal? And if it helps them achieve their end goal, they put all their resources into pushing it and trying to expand that particular situation. And then if it hinders their end goal, they put all their resources into shutting it down and then trying to develop another situation that's going to, I guess, help their situation. Now, again, we saw that with the protests in Melbourne. Last year, it was absolutely disgraceful. So as protests started to get momentum, especially with the tradies that are out there going every day, they cracked down on them extremely hard to shut that down. And that's why they censor people online who get affected. That, even with Joe Rogan, they're trying to do a lot of work there now too. So look, I don't think that everything is planned out in detail, but I do think they have a stated end objective and goals and high level strategies to achieve that. And then they play each situation by ear by evaluating whether this helps or hinders their situation. Now, and the reason why I say that is because, look, whether the Russian invasion of Ukraine and Putin or whatever, whether he's fighting against the establishment or just doing whatever Russia does or is part of the World Economic Forum or not, it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because again, they're going to look at the situation, whatever the situation is, we'll never know. Whatever that situation is, they're going to look at it and go, how does this help us? How does this hinder us? And they're going to push that as well. Now, the other thing that they do have, which is a proven playbook, and I first heard about this from the documentary, the 2030 Unmasked. Now, I don't know where you can find it. I found it through a Telegram group. I can't remember where I found it, but maybe go to DuckDuckGo and look for 2030 Unmasked. It's an incredible documentary about this whole agenda. But the proven playbook that they have is problem, response, solution. So what this means is they create a problem, and then they know that the people are going to have a predictable response, and then in they come with their solution that helps and saves the world from the problem that they in fact created. Now, you can argue this is what's happened with COVID, right? And that whole situation there. You can argue this is kind of what's happening even with Russia and Ukraine. And it's going to be what they use over and over and over again. So just make sure you watch out for that problem that they create, the response from the people, and then their solution that's going to save us all. Even with money printing, right? And what was it? The money printing and like the trillions of dollars they've printed to get people through, that's going to cause inflation. What's inflation going to cause? It's going to cause people being unable to afford so many things, and then they're going to come in with a solution of digital currencies, debt relief, all those other things to get us over. Bree's saying so true, and now all of a sudden with the Ukraine-Russia, protesting is legal when it was once ruled illegal. Yeah, well, it's even still, I think it's still deemed illegal in Canada with all their truckers and stuff. And the hypocrisy is it's through the roof. We all see it. They know that we see it, but they're going to continue doing it as well. So the other thing I think is these guys are master magicians, and by that I mean they are masters of misdirection. So they've got us all looking over here, and they're making their real moves over here. So again, I don't have I didn't get time to find the receipts for these things here, but there's been an extremely high number of laws have been passed by the Biden regime. And also here in Australia, a large number of laws have been passed in amongst this COVID pandemic, including like digital laws where the police can come in and access your social media accounts and actually modify what you've got up there, all in the name of security and safety, while we're all distracted and looking in where they wanted us to look, which is what magicians do. They have us looking over here when the real action is happening over here. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we don't fall for these distractions and look where they aren't, right? So right now they've got us all focusing on the Ukraine and Russia, right? And that's the thing here. While that's happening, we've got the food supply crisis, which Bree, you're well aware of that with the Ice Age farmer as I am, and I'm sure many other people are as well. We've got all these laws being passed in the USA and Australia that are all to our detriment. And it's important that we look where they don't want us to look, because it's only through that we can see what they're doing and expose it and get it out there to the people. Because we can be damn sure that mainstream media is not going to get that message out, right? So my final thoughts before we wrap up for tonight. For everyone who watches this, whether you're live with me now or later on, just keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you're looking at what they're not screeching about, because right now it's all about the Ukraine and Russia and that whole situation over there. Look at what's happening domestically, right here in Australia, in Canada, in the UK, even USA, in the Western world, and then think about whether the current situations help or hinder their process, right? So if it helps their progress, look for ways that we can sort of derail it, right? And if it hinders their process, look for ways that we can actually promote that and push that. And the final thing, and this is probably the most important thing as well, is think about what you need to do to position yourself and your family to be in the best possible shape for what's coming. And again, to reiterate what is coming with the Great Reset, it is total world government control. It is a social credit system. It is digital currencies, and it is no ownership of things by the general population. So again, that's not guaranteed to happen, but that's what they want. And that's the path that we're on right now, unless we can change things. But I like to be practical and I guess not realistic, but pragmatic about things. And I want to be ready to go whether things go well or not. So just think through, knowing what's coming, how can you start positioning you and your family and those who are close to you now to be ready when the time comes? Because as with a lot of things, especially I think it's with going bankrupt or whatever it is they call it, or going broke, it happens slowly, and then quickly and all of a sudden. So that's exactly what's going to happen for us with this whole situation. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, it is very, very late, and thank you everyone who's joined us for tonight's live. Again, Jake was a little bit busy, and I had a huge day in the business today, so I couldn't get onto this till this evening or till this late in the evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you do follow us at the Contrarian Daily on any of the social medias, all the social medias really. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. Pay particular attention to the alt tech, because we are shadow banned on Instagram right now. I have a feeling we're going to go down on the other mainstream platforms as well. Make sure you do follow us for more information. We're going to be doing these every single day, likely with Jake and I back for tomorrow. And with that, I hope you had a great day, and we'll speak soon. Bye for now.